It's a base of 10 with 1 year after that, and it's also my understanding, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Kevin and Johnny talked this afternoon, and I was part of that conversation. You read this final draft.
Yes.
And your people are good with this?
Yes.
In all respects?
Yes.
Okay, we are recording again. The part I was concerned with earlier was there was no time limit on $60,000 upgrades, and there was some language in there about agreed shared expenses, which didn't seem like it should be in an agreement if there was no specifics to it. It was really kind of loose. A lot of my concerns are actually not so much with this agreement, because the agreement seems fairly reasonable, except for not being specific in those two areas. A lot of my concerns were with the disposal of a property that would be to finance this, which really isn't the park board's concern.
Right.
And I will say, the park board should know that this has become somewhat of a hot potato, not because of the concept or the idea, but because certain aldermen have been contacted, and by whom I don't know, and it really doesn't matter. This issue of not only does the park board not have standing, if that is an issue, but given some of the demands by some of the aldermen, that issue was sent over to Joe Willers today, and it was the city attorney's position that as long as Raytown Association, or what is now known as KG Metro Sports, doesn't cease operation, that's not an issue. The issue that may rear its head at some point in time is if this association does cease its operation. I think that under some of the documents, and I've expressed this to Kevin, and I think Kevin expressed it to Johnny, that I think the city has a claim potentially for that, for whatever money is left in the till. But the association is not ceasing its operation. It's changing a name, and it's continuing to do the same thing. So the city attorney's position is that that isn't an issue at this point. With respect to the limitation, there is a 2-year limiter on when the non-field or off-field improvements need to be done, and that was inserted. There is a provision, I think it's paragraph 5, that does say, I mean, it is contemplated that we don't know the future, and there's some things that the park, that Kevin and I and Johnny have talked about, some ways that I think some money can be saved to do certain things there that are listed in the non-field improvements. And but if the non-field cost does exceed the $60,000, the park department and Raytown Association is going to have to, we will decide what improvements should be done together, and we're going to have to decide at that point how we're going to divide that cost. We don't know what the improvements are going to be. It's anticipated at this time that the improvements listed in 4 and 5 will come in under that number, and I think that's the anticipation of both Johnny and Kevin based on the resources and the people that they've talked to.
Just one point on that, and that would be, I would be more comfortable personally, as a citizen, if the park board had oversight as to the value you were getting for the $30,000 and the $60,000. Yes, it is their money, but it's their way of reimbursing you. So, there should be some manner to make sure you're getting the appropriate value for the expenditure. Would be one concern. Okay, the last concern, while it's not totally park board, is it in the interest of Raytown or the parks or the citizens to see a quarry double or triple its size at the border of the town? You know, when you do an action, you have to look at all of the consequences of that action and whether it's good for the community. And that's not part of this agreement, but that may be an unintended consequence of this agreement. That's, watch the money.
Well, this
and
agreement,
consider,
this agreement is completely independent of what happens to the quarry.
we understand, but this may facilitate another action outside of this group happening. That's all.
I follow that, but to be honest, I don't personally feel that, I follow what you're saying. I do. But at the same time, regardless of our actions, we don't control that property.
That's true.
So therefore, they
But you're
can,
providing them with a location so that they no
I follow
longer
you.
need the property. Therefore,
right.
your actions can help the quarry.
It might make it
acquiring
happen
the property.
faster,
Yes.
but I don't know that it's detrimental as to whether it happens.
In all fairness, the way I understand this, and I'm not defending anybody's side here, but I am talking reality. The reality is, for a number of different reasons, that property is not maintainable by the association for any reason. So whether we give them this contract or not, they're not going to play ball there at that place. They're going to go, as the old expression goes, they're going to go play ball elsewhere. Now, from a city's perspective and from the park's perspective, I think this can be a win-win for everybody. And if I didn't really believe that, I mean, I can't tell you guys, and I don't want any attaboys for it or anything like that, but I can't tell you how much time I spent working on this contract and so forth, and I did it because I think it's something that is worthwhile. But the board has to make the final decision.
Well, I think it's worthwhile that our kids have a place to play ball, and this is going to, right now they don't have it unless they go somewhere else, because they're not going to play at the old property.
Well, they're not going to play in its present format, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's going to definitely be some improvement.
I think it's an excellent opportunity to continue a venue that had the girls' softball for so many years, and that they have gone defunct at this point, and we are able to get an organization that's still
It's good timing, yeah.
still youth sports primarily for kids in Raytown, and the Kansas City Youth Sports Association heard my plea to change their name back to Raytown. So, you know, in the tracking this thing over the months, this thing was originally going to go where the old racetrack went, and that didn't come about, and they approached us. And everybody's worked very hard to figure out a way that we could make this a win for kids playing baseball, and the Parks Department not having a money drag on keeping the maintenance of Little Blue Trace up. And the Little League guys are going to be helping us, one, to have a reason to have that park, and two, to have to do some of the much needed maintenance.
The better that park looks, correct me if I'm not right here, Johnny, the better that park looks, the better your participation stands to be.
Absolutely. The reason why our numbers have been declining now is because our existing complex was deteriorating, and parents want their kids to play someplace nice. And we didn't have money to keep doing upgrades to it. We had no maintenance fund to put aside to put $10,000 or $20,000 into the existing property.
Johnny, you personally put money into that.
Well, yeah, the last 5 years, I've been president, myself and the baseball commissioners, put money in our pocket to keep the league going. And it just got to the point where we just couldn't.
Let me ask you this, Johnny, how has this concept been received by people in the association? Are they excited about
Yes,
this?
they're
Is this
excited
something
about
that they think will increase your participation?
Yeah, they're excited about it because it's a newer facility. The access is easier, not driving through residential neighborhoods to get to the park. And it'd be an upgrade of what they have now, what we have now. So they're very excited about it.
Parking will be better
Yeah.
by a long way.
Don't break your ankle walking across the park.
Well, is there any more discussion on this agreement?
Real quick, I want to make it long. I don't necessarily see some perfect connection here between the two events. The only thing that I can see that somebody might be able to use to connect the two issues on the old land and this agreement is the money that is being promised, that $100,000 essentially is being promised for improvements. Is that coming from the association or is that coming from the sale of the land?
From the sale of the land.
That is a maybe issue.
No,
Because-
but I will say this, for the people, and I just want everybody to hear this thought process. The concern is the people that sold the land aren't taking the money, or it's not going to Raytown. Well, I don't know what the sale of the quarry was, and it really isn't any of my business, but at least I know 100,000 of it right now is going to go back into this.
Well, it goes
Something
right
else.
to Park. So the worry that I would have, and would have to get a lawyer, and I don't know if the lawyers are asked this question, is if somebody did say that the city, not the park board, but the city had a claim to that land, could the city then come and get the $100,000 back from us?
The city's position through Joe Willis today, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way I understand it. The city's position is that the city has no claim to any of that money, if they have any claim at all, unless and until this association dissolves. And then it would be the city that would have the claim based on the way the articles of incorporation were set up.
The original articles of
And it's
incorporation.
unlikely that the city say, well, that was our money. We should have sold the land and had that money and come after us.
Well, I mean, I think their attorney's position is that can only come about if this association tomorrow decided to dissolve.
I understand.
And if they, and
That could happen here, we don't know.
that's right, and the issue would come up, let's say Johnny decides to give the money to the American Cancer Society, or their group, or the Little Sisters of the Poor, or
But that's where it's disconnected for us. The only place it's connected to us through this agreement is the $100,000. You're right, we can't do anything if he gives money from the sale of the land to somebody else. That's none of our business. But he's giving us money from the sale of the land that might someday be a claim on the city.
Well, my only thought there is,
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong, this capital improvements is not based on where the money's coming from. It's based on, that's what they're paying for, period. It's not,
Except we know where the money's coming from. We just answered the question.
but the documents here don't state that in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
It doesn't technically tie us there.
I'm still
And
gonna vote
if
yes.
anybody's
I just think it's,
yeah, no,
I just think it's a
that's
good
my
question
thought.
to ask.
But my thoughts on it as well is that if they're gonna go after anybody, they're gonna go after the person who the money was given to, not us. I mean,
Who's gonna go after it?
Yeah, I don't
City
think
gonna
the
go
that's
after
what,
it?
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I said. It's unlikely that they would do that. So.
And they would have no, I mean,
Is that fair?
Johnny, this property, when you did the sale, you had to provide a title policy?
Yep, title cleared.
Okay, so in the eyes of the government, that property is free of any liens, including any claims by anyone.
Correct.
okay.
But see, the city's claim hasn't ripened into a claim.
Exactly.
The city will never have a claim if this organization
Right.
stays in being, regardless of its name. If the organization doing the thing this organization's done, which is put baseball teams on the field, if that goes on for another 250 years, the city, nobody's ever going to see that money. Now, I'm not their lawyer, but I would have to say if they decide to disband in a year, that could be interesting. Not from our perspective, but between them and the city.
How long you guys have been doing that for, like,
Well, I've been out there for 20 years.
yeah.
Both my sons played out there. I've been president the last 5 years. I was vice president 6 years before that, so I'm not going anywhere. And the reason why, when they approached us about buying the property, we knew we couldn't maintain the property as it was now. We didn't have the funds up there, so we either were going to close down, in which then the city would have gotten the property, or we sell the property and move someplace else.
Is the railroad line along the border of the property?
But yes, part of the property, the railroad.
So that could they lay any claim into any of that property or the sale?
The quarry has talked to them about it, and there's no
Yeah,
claim.
I'm surprised that the quarry lets them use it like they do.
Well, they had to get that agreement before they signed the contract with us, so they got the agreement from the railroad.
Oh,
There's no
okay.
claim.
I feel good about this contract. Do we need a motion to approve taking this for the Alderman? I
It
so
doesn't have to go in front of the alderman.
Doesn't go to the
There's
alderman.
there is no budgetary impact at all. So this is an agreement that,
You can
once
sign it up.
once this contract is approved, Kevin can sign it. Everybody,
Well, I
But this is
move,
a committee meeting, so it still has to go to.
This is a full park
no,
board
this is a
meeting.
park board
Special.
meeting.
Full park
We
board
called it
special.
for this reason.
Good
Yeah,
point.
no, we didn't, but
I'm
like, I should have had that, but.
I move that we approve this document as presented this evening with the changes that were made today, the priority, and the 2 years of number 5 that were noted.
Second.
Any more discussion? Everybody ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Sign away, Kevin and Johnny.
And mine, your name's on there too. Yeah,
Press down, there's several copies.
Oops.
yeah.
Johnny, thanks a lot for your willingness to put up with us.
Well, Mike, we need to give you a big thanks for.
This will be a great, no, thank Kevin. Kevin got a lot of emails from you.
Well, you and Kevin have been spending a lot of time up here, so.
Thank Johnny.
No,
Johnny,
thank
and I think everybody, this truly was a collaborative effort.
The work is underway.
And I
Yeah,
think we
solid
reached an
machine,
agreement that is really, I think everybody gave in a little bit, which those are always in my parlance, the best ones, the best agreements. Okay, last thing.
I just want to say thank you. Now I can
Sleep tonight?
I don't have to worry about this anymore. I can tell the board members it's been signed, it's done, and we'll continue working on the farm. So
Thank you.
We'll have a signed
Yeah.
agreement tomorrow.
He's already signed it. So I'm gonna get your guys' signature, so
Okay.
he's here.